This
Yeah,
is
no
an
problem.
interview with Flotsam and Jetsam drummer Ken Mary on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021 by Nick Burkell. Now, Ken, can you tell me about getting your very first drum kit?
I sure can. Actually, I think I was 11 years old when I got my drum kit. I actually started out on a drum pad and drum sticks for my first year. I was just learning rudiments only. And so just working on the snare only. And then I got a drum kit. I believe I was 11 years old, and it was a red sparkle. The kit was called US Mercury. It was some cheap Japanese. I mean, back then, Japanese drums were considered awful. Now all the greatest companies are made in Japan, but back then Japanese drums were pretty awful. And it was a kit called the US Mercury, and I'm sure it was a used kit. And but it got me started. It got me playing, and that was the first kit that I had. After that, I ended up getting a black Rogers. Once I moved to Seattle, I got a black Rogers drum kit, and that thing was pretty high end, actually.
Now, were you involved with any private tutors, music schools, or conservatories when you were growing up?
Well, I did have a private teacher. I had actually several, but the main one was a gentleman named Dick Stensland, and he sort of directed me towards jazz fusion and rock fusion, and drummers like Buddy Rich and Steve Gadd, and basically all the greatest recording drummers of the day. And then when I think I was 11 again, and I got to see a Kiss concert, and that sort of was a life-changing experience for me. I saw Kiss and I was like, wow, I want to do that. So anyways, that was that as far as my private teaching. I mean, he was really, I would say, the private teacher that made the biggest impact on me.
You were a live member of Flotsam from 2017 to 2018. What did you notice about how the 2016 album turned out that you wanted to do for the End of Chaos and continue on with Blood in the Water?
Well, the interesting thing about that album is, I don't know if you know this, but I have a recording studio, and the 2016 album, chunks of that were recorded at my studio, including the drums. And Jason Bittner was the drummer on that album, and I was a huge fan of Flotsam back in the day. I was a big fan of the first two albums, but I hadn't really heard much from them since that time. And I mean, of course, I knew who the band was because I was a fan, but I really hadn't checked out much of their new material or new albums after those first two. So listening to the self-titled album, I was actually very, very impressed with the band, with the songs, with the vocals. It was one of my favorite records. And usually when I'm involved in any sort of part of the production of the album, I don't really like to listen to it after I'm done working on it. And the Flotsam and Jetsam self-titled was in my car for months, and I really, really enjoyed the record. So as far as me getting involved, I mean, I think that was kind of a critical component. I'm not sure if I had not heard that record that I would have been quick to jump into the band. But hearing that album and hearing what AK was doing and how great his voice sounded, these days I like his voice now better than I did on the first two albums. Like, I think he's grown as a singer, and his tone has become, much more deep and aggressive. And, I just think his voice is incredible. I think he's one of the best singers in metal. So, that was certainly a big impact on me, as well as the songs. The songs were kind of a return to, the aggressiveness of those first two albums. And, that's what I loved about Flotsam to begin with. So, it kind of showed me that, hey, these guys are back and they're not messing around, and they can write some amazing songs. And, maybe this is a cool thing to be part of.
During the recording of Blood on the Water, what albums did you listen to the most?
Well, I wasn't listening to any albums during the recording of this album. It's really one thing that Kelly Smith told me, and he's the original drummer in Flotsam, because I was really a big fan of what he did on their first two albums. And I just said, well, what inspired you to write the parts that you did? And the thing that I loved about Kelly's playing is the fact that he really thought out what he was going to play. I mean, he just didn't play stuff to play stuff. He fit it in, and it all made musical sense. And some of it was very fast and aggressive, and other parts were kind of, it was just very, very musically put together. And he told me, he goes, well, I just listen to the song and I try to do what fits the song. And I thought that was great advice. So when we were doing these two records, I didn't really listen to other records. I just listened to what the songs were and tried to put in the things that I felt fit the song, if that makes sense. I really tried to follow kind of Kelly's advice, really.
How has the dynamic of songwriting changed with the addition of bassist Bill Bodley to replace Michael Spencer?
Sure. Well, it's Bill Bodley, and the songwriting really didn't change much, to be honest with you. The End of Chaos, Michael Spencer didn't really have a lot of input into that because he lives in California. Excuse me, a logistics issue. It's not that he's a great writer too, but for whatever reason, all four of us are living in Phoenix, and it's very easy to communicate and share ideas and work together. And it's a little more difficult when you're out of town. So the End of Chaos was really more or less the four of us, putting stuff together. And Blood in the Water was kind of the same thing. Bill lives in Pennsylvania, and he at that point, he joined the band pretty much during the recording. So the songs were pretty much already done. I mean, we certainly hope he's going to have some great input next time around. But in terms of the band chemistry for the End of Chaos and for Blood in the Water, it's been fairly similar. It's just been the four of us kind of, hashing out the ideas and figuring out what works the best. And the great thing about the band as it sits now, and I think Bill's going to definitely play a big part of this in the future, is the fact that if there's something wrong with a song or it's really not doing what it's doing, but it has some great potential, someone will come up with the ideas to fix it, whether it's AK or whether it's me or Michael or Steve. There's always somebody, putting the ship in the right direction and really coming forward with something that's going to make the song pop and make it work. And so that's really, the chemistry itself is, I think, a very important part of the last, really the last three records. I wasn't involved, obviously, in the self-titled, but I think the chemistry between, Michael and Steve and AK and Michael Spencer and of course Jason Bittner, I think that chemistry there really worked out, and I think we kind of continued that chemistry onto the next two albums as well. And so far, all the indications are that we may have topped the End of Chaos in terms of the sales success. We know that we have already. In terms of the fan response and the press response, it really appears that we kind of outdid the End of Chaos as well. And to be honest, we were quite worried about it because we really felt strongly about the End of Chaos. I mean, we really put a lot of our hard work and energy and emotions into that record, and we weren't sure we were going to be able to top it. And I think we did.
Cry for the Dead had the darkest vibe surrounding it, I felt. Can you tell me what the subject matter was? And a little bit about the
Sure.
recording session?
Yep, absolutely. Well, that song is pretty much all AK. That's AK's lyrics and melodies, and that's Michael Gilbert's guitar lines. So that's pretty much that song. I would say is really those two guys. And as far as the subject matter, I do know it was inspired by COVID. AK's mother was in the hospital for over 8 weeks, and there were several times where they called and told the family that they were expecting the worst and that she wasn't going to make it. And so, that really had everything to do with the, emotional input of that song. And so that's why, AK says, I can't live without the ones I love, and it's just a reflection. I mean, the song goes, beyond just his family, but, it just talks about someone that's dealing with the fact that, hey, I've lost a bunch of the people I love. And, it's not something I'm obviously having an easy time with. And that's really probably the darkness that you're sensing in that song.
Now, I think I like Dragon the best. Tell me about that track.
Great Dragon, that was a song that Steve brought in. And then I think AK and I worked on the chorus, I think, together on that. I think I wrote the first part of the chorus and he wrote the second part. And I think originally the song was about Flotzilla, and then we kind of morphed it into, there's an actual aircraft called the Gray Dragon, and it's a military aircraft, and so the song sort of morphed into that kind of thing. But in terms of, did you have a specific question about the song in terms of
Just wanting you to talk about it, honestly. I just, felt like it was like
Sure.
the most metal song on the album. So that's what I dug about it. Now, what three songs are your favorite to play live?
Well, that's going to be an interesting question because I think what my favorite three songs to play live would be versus what they're going to be. I think whenever you have a record, you may have songs that are your favorites, but you're not there to serve your own, needs. You're not there to play your favorite songs. You're there to play the favorite songs of the fans. And it looks to me like from the fan perspective, the songs that probably will get played live off of this album will be one of either maybe two, three, or four of these, but probably Blood in the Water, Brace for Impact, Burn the Sky. Reaggression is actually a song that's getting played a lot on radio now. So I'd say between those four songs, if we're playing new songs, it'll end up being some of those or all of those.
Have you heard when Flotsam will be hitting the East Coast?
We don't have dates yet for the East Coast. We do have a run that we're doing in August that's going to be about a couple weeks, and we're kind of testing the water, so to speak, and just kind of see how everything goes because it's a different environment, as we know. It's post-COVID. There's some shows that I've been involved with already that look to me like the people aren't quite returning like they used to, and then there's other shows that I'm looking at online and where you see like there's really looks like quite a few people are coming out to them. So we're just trying to make sure that it's going to work for us, from a financial perspective. But I would say that, they were talking about doing East Coast dates either in the fall or the first part of 2022.
When you're out on tour, do you ever bring anything like a Tascam digital recorder to record ideas?
Well, these days with Pro Tools, everybody's got Pro Tools on their laptops. And so we do have a Pro Tools rig with us in the bus. And we've, certainly recorded things on it before. But, I'd say most ideas, when they strike you, I think for the guitar players, it's a little different because, they're coming up with riffs and that's something that you can record, right away. For things like vocals and vocal lines and vocal melodies and that kind of stuff, I mean, you can record that on anything. You can record that on your iPhone and, get a pretty good idea of what it is that you're down when you go listen to it later. But usually, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yes, we definitely have the ability to do some recording while we're on the road.
What is your most hallowed musical possession relating to Flotsam and Jetsam?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure if I have one that's relating to Flotsam and Jetsam. Are you talking about like
Well, I mean, it
items
could
like?
be an instrument, it could be some sort of rare album. I leave it up to you.
Well, it's probably for me. It's I have a friend that's sending me an original pressing of the first album. So when I get that, that certainly will be a prized possession. But I'd say right now, my prized Flotsam possession is the box set from the End of Chaos. I don't have my Blood in the Water box set yet. I just have to go down to Mike's house and get it. But he lives about 30 miles away, so I haven't done that yet. But so right now it's my End of Chaos box set, which is really a cool box set. I mean, they did this awesome 3D picture on the front, and it's got Flotzilla in 3D on it, and it's all metal. So the box is metal. It's really well produced and has a T-shirt in it and a poster, and so that's probably one of my favorite. I'd say that's my favorite Flotsam possession at the moment.
What is your favorite ghost story or urban legend from Arizona or Seattle?
Another great question. Urban legend. Wow, that's. I guess I'm not really an urban legend kind of guy. I was trying to think of something while we were doing the interview, but I really don't have one for Phoenix or Seattle. I mean, I have visited like the Seattle Underground, which is really interesting. It's basically a city underneath the city. I've certainly been to all the amazing places, the Seattle Science Center and the Space Needle and all of the, amazing things that they created for the World's Fair. I think it was like 1965 or 1966 up there. But unfortunately, I don't really know any urban legends. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Now, final words.
Sure. Well, final words for us are always going to be the same, and that's, we just like to thank our fans for following us for all these years, and we hope that you are happy and healthy and safe, and we hope to see you out on the road. Out on the road very, very soon.
Thank you very much. This has been an interview with Flotsam and Jetsam drummer Ken Mary on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021 by Nick Burkell.